Congratulations on the film.
Thank you very much.
Are you pleased with it?
I'm absolutely thrilled. We watched it again on Monday night. I think it's about the fourth time I've seen it, and every time I just notice more details, and I find it so... You leave the cinema in such a buoyant mood because you sort of... It sort of restores your faith in human beings, I think, this film.
Completely. Could you set the scene for us, for people who've not seen it?
Well,
Tell us about this. You know, the focus is a short time period, really, isn't it?
It's a few weeks. I think it's 20 days or 21 days. In May, in 1940, when Winston Churchill comes to power, he's at last become Prime Minister, and he's got this impossible problem to deal with, which is the advance of the Nazi army and the retreat of the British army. The entire British army, ground force anyway, in Europe is stuck on a beach in Dunkirk. And many people would have seen the film Dunkirk with his soldiers caught on the beach waiting to be taken home. And this is the other side of the medal. This is the decisions that have to be made, and how do we get out of this situation when you don't have... when there's no air power, there's no land power, there's no army left. What do you do? And no America to help you. And this is the situation that Winston Churchill is faced with.
So he's in a kind of... It's almost a poison chalice that he's become Prime Minister. There are people within his own party close to him that want to make peace with Hitler.
Yeah.
And tell us who you play.
Well, I play Clementine Churchill, who they were married... I'm not quite sure the year they were married, but they've been married for a long time. They'd had 5 children, they have 4, and they are, like any old married couple. They have their moments of warring, they have their moments of great connivence, kind of complicity. They are happy and angry and cross with each other, and it's a very, very complex relationship, which has been given space within this film, this very intense political thriller. There's this domestic side where we see the role of Clementine in the film is to be able to allow us to see the kind of moral dilemma that Winston is placed in.
He kind of uses her to express his self-doubt, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Very
absolutely,
much so.
Yeah. And I think they understood each other in that, because Clementine also suffered terribly from dark moods. Winston Churchill's a very well-known, his Black Dog. Everybody talks about that. And Clemmy was very similar, and I think that's one of the reasons they were so... They was able to help each other so well, because each one understood the other one's depression. Anyway, there's that saying about behind every man is a powerful woman, every powerful man there's a great woman, or whatever it is. I think in this case she's so much part of the engine. Mm-hmm. And I think if we hadn't had if he'd married someone else, we would have had a completely different Winston Churchill.
Completely. I think that's so true.
Yeah.
Did you, when Joe came to you with this role, what was your initial reaction?
Well, first of all, I said I don't want to play Clementine Churchill.
Why not?
Because I didn't see. I'd never seen any. I mean, obviously we've had some very good performances. I'm not questioning the performances, but there's never given any room to her. Mm-hmm. She's never really taken seriously. She's sort of an appendix. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. There didn't seem to be any point, because other people have done it so brilliantly. Miranda Richardson or it's just been done so many times. Harriet Walter. There's no need for another one of those. But there was a need for somebody to actually look at this woman and give her more space and give her more time and actually create a relationship between the two of them that was going to be a little more revealing about who this woman is. I was interested in what sort of woman marries a man like Winston Churchill, and what's it like to be the wife of a leader of a world power, and what's it like to be the wife of a man with this in this hideous situation. That's what I find intriguing.
What about, was Gary already cast as Winston when?
Yeah.
And what was when you heard that?
Well, I was surprised.
Were you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Gary's a genius actor, but doesn't look much like Winston Churchill. I thought, how on earth are they going to do that? And he said, "Oh, we've got this amazing prosthetics person." And I thought, oh, well, have a look at that when we see that. And then the day I met Gary, in inverted commas, I didn't meet Gary at all. I met Winston Churchill, or it appeared to be, because Winston Churchill was in the room.
Was that at the read-through?
And there was a sort of gasp, and people stood up, and it was really quite chilling.
Was it? So he had the prosthetic on?
Yeah, he had the prosthetic on, and the suit on, and everything,
and
the way he walked, and he was just extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Wow.
And because of that commitment, and because of that absolute dedication to getting it right, it made that we could all take on our roles in a much more convincing way as well, because it's very difficult to play someone who has actually existed, because you can't just invent it, because that's how we own characters. We invent them and we own them, but you can't really own these people because they really existed, and their grandchildren own them, or the people who knew them own them. So you have to be quite brave to take on a character that's actually that it has really existed. But because of Gary's incredible embodiment, I just thought, well, okay, I'm Clemmy, and I just went for it.
This is very much a story about the power of words as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And leadership. When in many regards you can see why Lord Halifax, who puts the argument for appeasement, is right. The country that Britain was still on its knees from the First World War. It was vastly outnumbered. And yet Churchill used those words to summon and to sort of stir the country, didn't he?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that a lesson to be learned from this film is the power of words, the power of language. And I think you come out of the film feeling really buoyant because you have, faith in human nature. But I think one of the reasons that it is so powerful, the end, is because each word is so well chosen and thought out and presented. And I think that's really, we should really think more carefully about the way we just shove words out there, in any shape or form. I think they're much more important than we're giving them at the moment.
We often look to the past, don't we, to sort of think about what we're doing today, and we often do that with movies. That do you think this one resonates with what's happening in the world today? I mean, maybe in terms of leadership and in terms of.
I mean, I think a lot of people will watch the film, and certain things will resonate with them, and they will think about the world we live in now in perhaps a different way, and I'd be very glad if that's the case. I think so.
Joe Wright, the director, was saying that some of Winston and Clemmy's relatives visited the set. Did you get the chance to meet any of them, and did that help?
Luckily enough. Yes, it was very helpful. If only just to get sort of permission to play her, from somebody. I met 3 of their grandchildren, 4 of them actually. But before I started shooting, I met 2 of her granddaughters, and it was just a sort of green light, really. And I just wanted to talk to them a bit, and then because they'd loved her, they'd sat on her knee, she was their granny. So, as I said earlier, you feel rather nervous about not getting it right.
Did you like her?
Did I like Clemmy?
Yeah.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, she's fiery and frightened and scary herself, and has doubts, and is adventurous, and is elegant, and is forceful, and she is the most fabulous character.
You touched on this before, but one of the things that I really liked was their relationship is so real. He's so eccentric at times, the drinking at breakfast and things like that. But she kind of just got him, didn't she?
Yes, and I think she enjoyed all of that in him, and because that's who he was, and she loved him, and and they had their moments. And I think his sense of humour and his wit, and hers, which was something that sort of sped back and forth between them. I think that was very important, and that comes across beautifully in the film.